Greetings, metalheads. Welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today, you're going to be watching an interview with Mark Zonder from the band AZ. So, we're going to be talking about the new album and a little bit about the previous album. So, thanks for watching. Please share, please leave comments. And if you've not bought the new album, check it out. It's awesome. Thanks for watching. Mark, I want to thank you for coming back to Friday the 13th and talking about the new A to Z album, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But first of all, I just want to ask you about the debut album. How much of a success was it for you? Because it was such a brilliant debut. Every song was perfect.
Um, Critically, it was great. Again, and I know this isn't the days of the 80s, where bands are actually selling records and things are happening. With the ability to everybody just go to Spotify or wherever they can get their stuff, it's really tough to sell a CD. Obviously, vinyl, the collectors are into that kind of thing because it's cool and it's something you can hold. So, um, I mean, it was great, There was problems within the band right after the release. That's why, I changed out the members. But no, it both records, actually, they told me that the second one doubled and tripled already what the first one did. And you can tell by just the first video has about 210,000 within 3 months, whereas the biggest video off the first album had about 90 after 4 years. So it's doing well. It's label's very happy. Everything's going in the right direction. And great critical acclaim. Again, you can put it on my headstone. Critical acclaim is overrated. It doesn't get anything. I mean, we're struggling right now just to go out and play.
Yeah,
It's not the band saying, "Oh, I don't want to go out and play." It's where can we go out and play is the problem.
very, very
Trying to
true.
set something up. This isn't the days of like, the label putting up 50 grand to put the band on the road or anything like that. So it's pretty difficult. So it's kind of disappointing that we don't have anything lined up. I mean, we continually are working at that and having other people do that for us and talking to this and that and the other, and maybe looking at some of the festivals next year. But the real truth of the matter, people have to realize it's not like a band that lives together that we could play a gig this Friday. Okay, it's going to take rehearsal. It's going to take, coordination of schedules. It can be done, but we just haven't gotten any offers at this point or any kind of thing. So we're kind of getting down to that point possibly of maybe doing something with somebody else and just doing maybe 5 East Coast dates or to do something to just to go out and do it. So, I'll keep you posted, but it's not
Well,
easy. We're trying. It's not for lack of trying. Let's just put it that way.
well, if you need a drum set, Mark, as you know, I work with Anvil, give me a shout. I'll come out on the road and set your
I'll let
drums
you
up for you,
know.
man. Yeah, please do. So, I mean, the first album, what was your favorite songs off that debut album?
Right, trial by fire. I know it sounds funny, but that one line that Robbie Wyckoff sings as an echo to Ray just always gets me as like such a $1 million idea and $1 million hook that you'd hear like on a million selling, song kind of thing. It's just beautiful. But no, that all of them, both records, I loved all the songs. There's never, we don't do duds. We're not a band that like records 20 songs and picks the 10 best because truthfully, at this level and these kind of guys, when you're putting a song together, if it sucks, it just doesn't go anywhere. You just drop it. It's not happening. I'm not a big fan. I've never played in a band, whether it's Warlord, Fates Warning, or anything else, that we do the old 20 songs and pick the 10 best because what does that tell you about the ones that you didn't pick, that they kind of sucked? Why waste your time on something that's sucking? I'm always more of the school of, you're putting together songs that are happening. And if they're not happening, you move on to something else or whatever the case may be. But I've never been a big fan of just like banging out a million songs and going back and picking because there's so much work and detail and creativeness that goes into it from each guy that it would be ridiculous to go through that process for 20 songs. I mean, it's very taxing for 10. So but no, that was my favorite off that one. Off this album, I would say probably when you have to go with favorite, I would say what I think the song that could do the most for the band is Now I Walk Away, which will have a video be coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
Um,
later.
we did. That we
So, I
did, but
mean,
that would be my favorite song off that album.
And when you look at the first album cover, it's very, very catchy. People don't realize what it is. I mean, you've got the A, the apple, Alder, zebra for Zonder. People don't kind of get that, do they? They don't picture it straight away, which I think is really clever idea what you've done.
Well, the same thing happened with the alligator and the zipper.
Yeah.
People didn't get it. Oh, it's a crocodile. Okay, let's think again. Let's think about it. So, but what it is, it's just kind of setting it up. So, album number three, hopefully people will be looking for that. They'll understand, oh, this is what they're doing. This is the theme that they're going to use from record to record. Um, and they should be able to pick up on the next one. I already basically have the idea and the concept for the number three. And no, it has nothing to do with animals, and there's no teeth. There's no teeth. That just happened. That was not planned. That just kind of happened.
It's brilliant artwork. Like I said, Mark, it's very catchy, very it just people just don't think of the apple and the zebra being you and Ray, your surnames. It's kind of cool that the way it's done it. It must have took some time trying to get this album cover done for the first album.
Actually, Hugh Syme did that in about 25 minutes.
Right?
Um, it's different on both records. On the first one, when I called him up, I said, he wanted lyrics and melody or lyrics and song titles, and I didn't want to give him any because I didn't want to have the album cover just represent like one song. I don't like when bands do that. It kind of narrows it. So I just told him the name of the band and the general direction of like what we're doing. I think I sent him a demo or two or whatever, just so he got the idea. And he came back to me with that rather quickly, and then it just kind of went from there. Um, the alligator and the zipper, we had the idea. My friend Mark Cubbage and I were working on it and thinking about it and just throwing things around. And we came up with that idea. And then I gave that to Hugh, and then he ran with it. He did everything else with it. And, we had the idea of the alligator being the A and then the zipper, kind of being closed. And Hugh's the kind of artist that he put the ant in there again and the zebras in the background. And if you look at the rest of the artwork, it's all tied to A through Z. People don't know it, but there's a little TV at the bottom of the ocean, and the TV is Zenith. It's a Z. And then there's the armadillo, and then the Zippo lighter, and the airplane, and he's got different things going on all over the place. So the second album cover, though, we told him exactly, not exactly, we told him what we wanted, but we left it up to him. And I had talked to a million other people about doing that kind of artwork, and no one even came close. They couldn't figure it out. He's Hugh. He gets it, and I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely stunning. It's like the first album cover where it grabs you. And I think that's important when you start seeing ads or reviews and you have all these album covers and they all kind of look the same. They're all very dark and, a lot of, serpents and swords and nomads and Vikings a lot of times. Or I love the ones where you can't even understand what the logo is. I guess that's the new thing.
That's the black metal thing that's going around.
I don't understand it, but okay. But again, like my friend Mark Cubbage said, and a million other people have said, well, a million might be a bit much, but this album cover doesn't matter if you're into the band or not. When you see it, it grabs you. It absolutely grabs you for a lot of reasons. I just think it's a lot of the coloring, the detail, and just the odd design of an alligator with a zipper, which is something that's, made up, obviously. Uh, but yeah,
It's
but
kind of weird that you put the alligator on there because alligators and crocodiles are my favorite reptiles.
well, we were thinking about that the whole time.
Thank
So
you.
just to let you know, I was keeping you in mind there. But no, again, I think Hugh just did an amazing job, and I think that album cover stands out from everything else that I see coming out. Um, it's absolutely brilliant. The rest of the artwork, when the Metal Blade did all the vinyl and the different colors they chose for it, it's really spectacular.
So, what colors did they choose for the album? Because I've got the CD.
Oh, if it's all there, if you go to the Metal Blade website, you'll see them all because certain ones are Europe and certain ones are America. Obviously, the 180 gram or whatever they call it, black, because that's which works really well with that center disc that's yellow, the sign of the guy with the alligator going after him. So black and yellow go good. They have kind of like I think they call it blue marble, something like that. That looks amazing. But the one that's really good, but it only came out in Europe, I think, was called Green Jungle, and it had a lot like what you have in the background there, that kind of rich green kind of thing going
Yeah.
on. It's really, really, really cool. And the vinyl discs have two different labels, one on each side that are different. Classic Hugh Syme. The front side's called A, the back side's called Z, and just the different art that's in the label itself, is well thought out and just amazing. And just trying to do things, one step ahead of everybody, trying to be special. That's what we're trying to do. Obviously, we have a product, so we're trying to make it as special as possible and to stand out,
So,
from the music to the art to everything else.
so you're going to be using the same artist for the next album. Obviously, you've got
Oh yeah.
a good reputation going between each other.
Yeah, I mean, I love Hugh. I love working with him. Um, Truthfully, he's been really, really good to us because we're not Rush. I know what he charges. He's just been really cool to me, in the band. So plus I love his stuff. Even if he was nasty to me, I'd probably still use him because I love at the end of the day, it's just about the result. Is you're looking at it and go, wow, does that kick my ass or not? And it certainly does. So I don't care how he does it. I don't care if he paints it, photographs it, uses his dog's tail to brush it on there. I don't care. It's the end result, and it's to me, it's actually more than what we anticipated, but it's great.
I mean, I've noticed on the artwork for the CD, you've got the zebra in a dark street at the back.
Yeah,
You've
that's
you've kept
classic. That's classic Hugh Simon. It's just bringing back. Well, actually, the real truth of it is the Zebra and the Ant were contracted for two different albums, so we had to get them in on the second album. So to fulfill the contract with their agents, no, it's just Hugh. It's a continuity. It's just like a band musically. You want it to be different album to album, but there has to be a continuity. We can't just put out a jazz record or a Latin record. That would be like going left field with an album cover that has nothing to do with anything that we've done. I always thought it's important for a band to keep a certain um, what do they call that? Not images, but certain process that goes from album to album that you can look at and go, oh, I know who that is,
right.
which I thought was important.
I
So,
mean, the new lineup, you've got like Nick Van Dyke, as we all know, Redemption is his main band. And you've also got Simone from DGM. How did you hook up with those guys? And Jimmy, of course, with
well,
Alcatraz.
Jimmy, I've known since the Graham Bonnet days. We'll get back to Jimmy in a minute, but Nick, I've known for like 30 some odd years. We've been really good friends. Nick is one of those guys that I would leave my kids, my car keys, and my checkbook with. Just an amazing human being. Do we hang out on a daily basis? No, but there's a deep respect musically and as just people that we have for each other. I mean, I would call him in a minute if I needed something, and he would be there. So, and vice versa. But I've known him for a while, and the way this really came about. And Simone obviously mixed the first record. So I've known him since then. And I could just tell the way we worked on that first record. He was complete pro, great to work with, easy, just professional. That's the word that everybody likes to use, but very few people really live up to what a professional is. So after this whole thing goes down and, I decide to go look for other guys, I was writing with like 10 or 12 other guys, some name guys, some not so name guys. I just wasn't going to be held hostage by a couple guys in the band before. So Nick and I go to see Kansas. He says to me, he goes, hey man, why don't we just start writing some stuff? We've talked about it forever. I said, okay, cool. So we just start writing some stuff and it's starting to come together and it's cool. There was a little adjustment. I had to, not that I had to get him out of the prog genre, but I didn't want to go there. I was moving him into the direction where I wanted to go. And he was great. I mean, he understood what we were doing. And then I was playing with Kristen Pelletieri at that heavy metal, whatever it was, Hall of Fame thing here in Agora Hills, where Chris got inducted. And so Nick comes down, I'm talking to him backstage, and he comes backstage and stuff. And he says to me, he goes, hey, man, I was thinking, you put all this time and energy and effort and money and everything else that you did to get this band where it is all by yourself. He goes, why don't we just move on and call this A through Z and we'll move on? I literally wanted to kiss him on the lips, but I didn't. All of a sudden we had life again. And the material, as you can tell, I was pushing it in that way that I like what I like. Not a big prog fan. I know that's a big shock to everybody, but it's about the song. It's about the hook. It's about the chorus. It's about the groove. And we just started moving from then. we started moving from there. And then what happened was Nick suggested Simone play the leads, as Nick has Simone in very, very high regard as a guitar player. I had never really paid that much attention to it because I just mixed with him. But I knew he was a total pro, and I knew just talking to him for 2 minutes, he knew exactly what I wanted and exactly where we wanted to go with it. And the solos are ridiculous. I mean, it's a cross between a little bit of the shred thing, but then it's Neil Schon, it's Steve Lukather, it's Gary Moore, it's Gary Richrath from REO Speedwagon. It's like he's the kind of guitar player in this style of music, obviously, because everybody plays different styles and different styles call for different things. You almost know what he's going to play next, kind of like what you know when a singer's going to sing next, just because it makes sense and it sounds so good. But what really took this record to the next level are two things. Number one is when I asked Simone, I go, just play all over the place. Later on when we go to mix, we'll figure out what we're going to do. And he added so many cool little orchestrated kind of picking patterns in the background, things that you definitely hear in Toto and Journey, that style of there's a melody behind the melody that's very catchy as well. And the other thing that really changed this album, besides obviously the writing and the camaraderie and all that, is Jimmy's keyboards. Jimmy Waldo's keyboards, I always say, and he's like the unsung hero because he doesn't get the big spotlight. He's not a lead singer, he's not a lead guitar player. But I always say that his keyboards are like the dirt that goes in between your sock and your shoe, and it kind of just grinds it out. That's what he added to this album. The first album, the keyboards were very proggy, Genesis. Yes, Viv was a big Yes fan, so they were kind of light and fluffy, and you were relying on the guitar for the distortion and the grind or whatever. But this time around, Jimmy with the Hammond B3 and his whole style just really added that grinding grit. It really goes back to that Deep Purple sound where it's the guitar and the keyboard together that kind of creates that sound. And Jimmy definitely did that. I know he doesn't get the big headlines, but it's such an integral part of the sound of the band.
Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely got that Deep Purple vibe. So you can imagine Simone and him trading off for like each of like John Law did with Richie Blackmore.
Oh yeah, no, and yeah, he that just that sound of the Hammond when he goes, like it's just it's a classic sound that I don't hear that much anymore. I don't hear bands doing it. It's all about shred guitar. It's all about jigga 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 and cutting double bass to the grid, and all that kind of stuff. That kind of creativity is I don't know any bands out that are playing right now that are kind of really doing that. Well, I do. I mean, it's Styx in Kansas. There you go. But and maybe Foreigner a little bit, but I don't know too many bands like that are putting out new records, like new bands that are encapsulating that kind of sound.
So did Nick do any guitar solos on this album? Was it all down to
Not a
Simone?
one.
Not
Not a
one.
one.
Really?
No, this was, and that was his choice because I pushed him a couple times and he goes, oh no, let Simone do it. Let Simone do it. So no, Nick was very, very, very content with writing and playing all the rhythms and the different chordings and ideas that he had for the rhythm. So it worked out very well, and Simone didn't play one rhythm, you know. Kind of an interesting setup. It kind of reminds me, I mean, there's bands in history that have kind of went that way, but it just happened that way. And again, the beautiful thing about this lineup is they're all professional. They're all playing for the song. For Nick, a guitar player with his statue to go, oh no, let this guy play it all because he's better. That just really tells you something about Nick as a musician, but also kind of as a person. He just cares about the final product. He doesn't care about, oh my God, I got to get my solo so my wife will think I'm cool or whatever. I mean, he's just in it for the band and the song. And he told me that from the beginning. He said to me, he goes, I'm going to be the easiest guy that you've ever worked with. I go, okay. And he basically was, I mean, all these guys, all these guys in this lineup were the same. They were all the easiest guys. I mean, working with Philip, same thing. I always push him. I say, play more, play more, play unison runs with the drums or whatever. I mean, play with me. Don't worry about the rhythm part here. Like, I want you to stand out. I want you to be creative. And that's the whole point of the band, is taking each guy, Ray included, and letting him be creative as possible. People, I'm not sure if they know it or not, but when we give Ray the songs, we don't say, okay, here's the verse, here's the chorus. Don't sing here, sing here. I just give him the song and say, hey, man, do whatever you think. I mean, if you want to cut it up, that's fine.
Go with the
But what
flow,
do you,
basically.
what's that?
Go with the flow.
Or whatever you hear. If you hear something different and you hear the chorus where we thought it was a verse pattern and you want to sing something else during the chorus and whatever, he did that on the first record too. And I thought that was so much of the magic instead of me going, okay, this is where we hear the verse. This is where the chorus is. Because that's my view. That's Nick's view. That's somebody else's view. But if Ray hears it totally different and it sounds good when he's done, then we're going with it. Simone too, there was a couple of times at the end of his lead, he'd play like a little run, and then the chorus would be chorus out. And I say, why don't you just take that run you just played and keep playing it like over and over behind the ending thing? Very Journey. I mean, very Journey, but it works obviously. And it's just so melodic. I don't think you can be overly melodic. You can just keep hitting them with melody and groove, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Do you still get compared? Does it really piss you off, Mark, that you get compared to Fates Warning a little bit still? Does that kind of annoy you? Because I know you're trying to create your own style and sound.
Well, I would like to think that I'm a big part of Fate's Warning.
Obviously, yeah.
Um, I mean, I think there is no question that what was responsible from the difference between No Exit to Perfect Symmetry. Yes, the writing changed, but there was also a member change that kind of influenced where everything was going. Let's just leave it there. Um, I don't think this, I mean, it's maybe people think it sounds like Fate's Warning because it's Ray and it's his voice. But I think the thing that's going on here, and this is my opinion, and you can send all the hate mail you want. I think one of the big difference that we really strive for, and Fates Warning never really strived for this, but was, well, I did, but groove, pocket, and big hooks. I think a real good example is you take a song like the Wordless Prison. Okay. Most prog bands would take that and make that a 12-minute epic. The bass player would probably fall asleep at about 4-minute mark because it's just kind of going on and we're doing this part and then we're going to do this part. But we took a song basically that's a semi-prog power ballad and did it in 5 minutes. You have the opening with the bass and the electronics, and then Ray sings that beautiful intro, not even intro, call it a verse, whatever you want to call it. And all of a sudden, then we step it up into a heavier part, but it just goes together so well. And it doesn't need to go on for 12 minutes. It doesn't need to explore all over the place. And I thought that was very important because I'm not a big fan of long songs. I'm just not. I like 3 to 4 minute songs, big chorus, big hook, great guitar riff, cool lead, kind of what it is. And I think we do that extremely well. That's kind of where we're at. Big chorus, big chorus, big chorus. And I think we definitely achieved that on both records.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last time I spoke to you, you was telling me that this album's going to be a lot darker and different from the first album, which it is. It's still got elements of the first album, but you've gone in a different direction, obviously because you've got a different lineup, or two new guitarists and keyboard players. So that's obviously going to make it different anyway, isn't it?
Well, it kind of goes back to the fact of I'm not trying to mold anybody. I'm not trying to make them do anything. Obviously, I have certain vision of where I think where the goal, where the sidelines are. But the truth of the matter is you want to use each guy and have them unrestricted and have them as free as they want to be, because that's the way you're going to get the best creativeness. If I kept standing there on Ray's neck and saying, no, sing it this way. This is the way I hear it. This is the way I hear it. That would kind of just squish the whole project. The same thing with the other guys. If they're saying, hey, Mark, you really got to play this straight or whatever, it's like, this is a band that's made for people to be as creative as they want to be. And we just went there. Nick's writing's a little darker, so we were going to the darker side. Obviously, bringing Jimmy in adds that heavier. I'm not sure if it's darker, but it's just that minor, heavy grinding thing, whatever you want to call it. And then when you bring Simone in and just what an amazing lead player and dynamic guitar player from the emotion point of view, and just really give something for everybody. There's the amazing melodic stuff. There's the shred stuff. He can kind of do it all. And he did do it all. And so I think from a listener's point of view, you kind of got everything you want.
Okay. So how long did it take to record this album, Mark? I mean, I presume pre-production was done at your studio.
Well, everybody did their stuff wherever they were. You know, Nick's here, Phillips in Arizona. Nobody got together on anything on this one just because everybody was so far apart. You know, Simone's in Italy, Ray's in Spain. But the real key to the success on this one, and everybody goes, well, you know, you really need to be in the room together and stuff like that. No, you don't. What you really need to do is spend a lot of time on your parts and refining. You know, we demoed 900 times. You know, we took a basic thing and then even when it came down to the very end, Ray sang something at the very end, and Nothing Is Over that had a certain feel to it. And I said to Nick, and everything was done. Drums were done, everything was done. But since everybody has their own studios, they can go back in and do whatever they need to do. And I said, how about we hit the accents on these points? And he said, oh man, great idea. So we went and did that. So I think it's a matter of refining and really paying a lot of attention. I must have listened to those songs at least 100 or 200 times, just over and over and hearing things like all of a sudden I'd hear something, wait a minute, wouldn't that be cool if it went twice as long or half as long or kind of things? And all the guys were like doing things like that, which really made a big difference. So, and I think if everybody's sitting in a room together and it's really loud and you're banging it out, it's a lot more difficult to really process stuff. And so this process for these guys works amazingly well. It moved very quick. It moved like in a matter of days when recording stuff because I'd have an idea and I'd send it over to Nick and say, what do you think about this? And then 20 minutes later I'd get a response and we'd move on from there, you know, and Philip would send in complete bass tracks and Jimmy would send in keyboards and hey, what do you think about this idea? So it moved rather well with the internet. If you know what you're doing and you have the time, it's just like being there. You know, it's not a big deal. Especially what's cool is the way everybody has their own studios, you can send each other tracks that sound really good that you can actually hear compared to being in a room where the drums are really loud and the Marshalls are on 10 and all this kind of stuff. It gets a bit much. So this is the way we all prefer it.
Okay. Have you got, how would you say the new material is going to sound that you're working on now? Is it completely different from the first two records? How do you see what you've heard so far, what you've got in your
No,
head?
it's kind of you know, we haven't gotten that deep into it, but it'll be probably more along, obviously more along the lines of what we're doing right now because you want to develop that lineup. You know, it might go other places, but I think there's so much more. I mean, you're just talking about 10 songs that we did. That's it. You know, so it's not like a band that's like of the same guys that have done 6 records and like, okay, now what are we gonna do? You know, there's plenty to do. You know, there'll be plenty to do. And it'll be very exciting and very creative. That's what's really cool about it.
Right, I know you've just signed with Dragon Agency in Europe. Does this mean we're going to see you guys touring very soon? Is there talk about a tour in Europe and England?
You know, your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't really tell you. I mean, everybody's pushing as hard as they can. Um, I would love to say yes, you know, and hey, here are the dates, but I'm just being very realistic where, you know, everybody knows anybody who's out there touring right now knows how difficult it is. Everybody that's buying a ticket is bitching how expensive it is. Everybody that has to put gas in a van or a tour bus is bitching because how expensive it is. And it's just very tough. And there's 1.5 million bands. So it's, you know, they're looking for next year in different festivals and, you know, everything needs to be booked pretty much far ahead. But no, absolutely. That's the plan. That's the last thing that we need to do. You know,
Right.
we've done everything else. We've done the videos, we've done the press, we've done the merchandise, we've done the contest. You know, there's going to be another contest coming up. We need to play. I mean, I'm basically already learning the songs to be ready. So that's kind of where my head is at. But it really comes down to that life philosophy of if you can do something about the situation you don't like, well, you do it. You take care of what you can, you do everything you can do, but there's certain things that are just out of your control that you can't do anything about,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't sit here and like, you know, curl up in the corner in the fetal position and start crying about it. But I mean, it's disappointing. We'd all love to get out and play. I mean, you could see the magic in that first video, and those videos that we did, that was completely just unscripted, behind the scenes video of people just hanging out, and you could see and feel, the love that everybody had, and the desire and the passion for the band. So, and I was the guy who had to play all 15 takes of every song because I'm in the background, and I was playing like it was a gig, full on. I had the track and the click of my headphones, no drums, and I was just wailing away. And I could tell you, man, I felt it. I'd look over and there's Philip, and I'm going, damn, and look over there and there's Nick and Ray and Jimmy's over. It'll be magical, I guarantee it. It's just a matter of we need to get out there.
All right. Okay. Well,
That's the easy part. Once we get out there, it'll be easy.
Yeah, obviously.
It's
Yeah.
just difficult.
So, Mark, I want to thank you for doing this interview. God bless. I hope everything goes well with the band. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future and your next album. Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Pardon me?
Do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Oh, no, just really appreciate all your guys' support. And believe me when we say everybody wants to go out and play. We're pushing as hard as we can. We know that's the latest thing. And, the label even said something kind of interesting in a weird way, kind of struck me a little weird, but they said, hey, if it takes the momentum of the second album to get to the third album, and then you go out and play, or whatever the case may be, so be it. But they're in it for the long haul. They're not, they're extremely happy. We just had a meeting the other day. This record just completely blew by the first one, and we appreciate all the fans. And we're dying to come out and play, and look for the new video in the next couple weeks. Now I walk away.
Thank you, Mark. Have a fantastic day. Keep in touch and say hello to the guys.
Thanks.
So just before we
I definitely will.
I just want to say to you, I really do hope you do a new album, and you do tour again, because you guys really need to get out there, because the two albums are absolutely fantastic. As you might have seen, I give your album 5 out of 5.
No, I appreciate it. No, absolutely. No, we're definitely doing a third thing, Nick, everybody has their busy schedules and so on and so forth, but Nick's already told me that he's got, stuff in a folder, and he's totally into it. Everybody's totally into it. It would just be nice to get out and be able to play. That's all, So we'll definitely let you know what's happening.
Yeah, Mark, I'll send you the link when it's online. If you could appreciate it, if you'd share it, I'd much appreciate it for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks, Mark. God bless you, my friend. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.